everybody? Welcome back to my countdown list of 2023. It's the end of the year still, so we're going to take a look now at the top 10 best films of the year. You know, I recently laid out the worst films of the year, which you can see on my channel as well, but today we're talking about the best of the best of the best. This list, unlike the last one, is likely to get on some people's nerves since it contains a few hot takes that most of you will not be agreeing with. So without further ado, here's my top 10 best films of the year 2023, starting with the number 10, Sisu. So Sisu was interesting because it was essentially John Wick if John Wick took place in the time period of World War II. And there was very, very little dialogue, but the action was intense, the story was captivating, the acting was insane. There was so much that I really dug about this film, and not a ton of people even knew that it existed. But even if you don't have it on your own top 10 list, I think most people can agree that it strikes a chord. It's very memorable for being unique and exciting. Number 9, Fast X. So we're starting this list off strong with my hot takes here. A lot of people don't like the Fast and the Furious saga at this point. They think that it's gone off the rails, it's gone insane, and Fast X is no exception, and I sort of agree, but at the same time, I've always had fun with the series. I would also say that Fast X is a little bit more grounded than it has been for the last couple of installments. In fact, Fast X reminds me the most of Fast 5, which I think is my favorite of the series. And a lot of the action sequences are really great, as they usually are. And it's really interesting because as far as I know, they're trying to close out the Fast and Furious franchise with Fast X, and they're splitting it into a trilogy. So this one ended with a cliffhanger, which is not what you normally see with this franchise. I found it really exciting, and personally, I cannot wait to see Fast X Part 2 and 3. Number 8, Saw X. Yes, I'm including Saw in my top 10 list, sue me. As I usually say with any of my Saw reviews, Saw's my guilty pleasure franchise. I love every single one, even though a lot of them cinematically aren't that great, writing-wise aren't really that great, but they're a blast and a half to marathon through. I personally never thought we'd ever see John Kramer in another Saw film, but I cannot state this enough. The movie's everything that I hoped it would be, and more, because it focused on John Kramer more than any of the other films did, and that made it really important, even though it doesn't really connect to any of the other Saw films, which it usually does. It's still a great movie. Number 7, Missing. If you don't know what Missing is, it's essentially the spiritual successor to the film Searching. And both of these variations, they are screen life thriller films, so they take place on a computer desktop while the main characters investigate some kind of mystery. I want to say I almost like Missing more, specifically because it made a little bit more sense as to who was using the social media. A teenager, and obviously younger people know technology a little bit more and can use it in different and smarter ways than adults can. So it almost made a little bit more sense than Searching, but I probably do like Searching just a twinge bit more. But it's apples and oranges. Number 6, Gran Turismo. This one surprised me, because I'm not a huge gamer in general, so I've never really played the Gran Turismo games. But the fact that this is a video game movie based on a true story made things quite interesting, because I never knew this true story, and the true story alone is kind of nuts. Taking people off the streets, basically, and challenging to literally race in a dangerous sport. It was really well done, it stuck to the true story more than you might expect it to, and it was exciting. Color me surprised, PlayStation. Number 5, The Flash. Here's another hot take for you guys, because obviously I know a lot of people have been pooping on The Flash. I'm not entirely sure why. I actually really dug that film. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this movie can do no wrong. Yes, the CGI is a little bit wonky throughout the film in general. It felt rushed, and it probably was rushed due to what? Rewrites or whatever they did. But it was a lot of fun. And seeing Michael Keaton as Batman again, that was the biggest draw for the film for me. But surprisingly, he's not the only great thing about the film. I loved the Supergirl angle and the Flash and the other version of Barry. It was all pretty cool. The fact that they brought it back full circle to the events of Man of Steel, it kind of felt like it was coming back to close out the DCEU or rewrite it in a way to make it make sense for future films. Obviously, that's not the case anymore, but I liked it. I just wish they would have had the scene that they had in the Flash TV show as well, where Ezra Miller showed up. Number 4, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. To me, the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse are pretty much apples and oranges. I can't decide between the two which one I like more. A lot of people say that this one's better than that. I'm not entirely sure if I agree with that, but it is a solid film. I might argue that it's slightly too long, but in general, I had a good time with it, and I can't wait for the third film, which I think is going to be closing out the Spider-Verse films. Now it's time for the top 3, the 3 best films of the year, at least for me, because I haven't seen everything. But number 3, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning 1. Thinking back to this entire series, there's not really a film in here that I dislike. When you watch the first one, that's the one that feels the most different from everything else in terms of feeling much more like an espionage spy thriller, more so than crazy action film. But that's not a bad thing, because the first movie is iconic. Dead Reckoning was really, really interesting because it took AI to another level in a way that actually felt pretty realistic and pretty threatening. The action sequences were fantastic. I will admit I've probably seen better, but as a whole, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning 1 was great. Number 2, No One Will Save You. This is another surprise for me. This is that Alien film that came out on Hulu. Again, this is a film that basically has no lines of dialogue. There's a couple lines of dialogue, I think, but for the most part, it is a silent film. Just tons of action, tons of thrills, tons of suspense. It twists, it turns in the direction, it takes you down paths you don't think it would. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. You never know what's gonna happen next. I would say the look of the aliens weren't amazing, but they weren't bad either. It is a Hulu film, but it definitely was one of those films that after you watch, you immediately have this impulse to talk to other people about it, to recommend it if they haven't heard about it. To me, that's one of the best things any film can have. And here we go, number 1, the best film of 2023, Secret Scene. That's right, my movie is the best film that came out this year. I don't think anybody would be arguing with me on that one. I'm just kidding. Number 1, Barbie. Yes, I do believe that Barbie was the best film of the year in general. It does everything that it sought out to do and more. It is tongue-in-cheek, it's funny, it's also very serious in terms of the messages that it's trying to convey. Every time that you watch it, it has the ability to add something else that actually makes it better. I didn't know how I would take it once I watched it. I knew that critics were ranting and raving about it, but I was like, it's Barbie. But once I watched it, I was impressed. And Ryan Gosling, also awesome as Ken. It's a movie that basically does no wrong. I can't really complain that much about it. I didn't give it a 100% rating score or anything, but it is up there. I think I rated it 98. And there you have it. Those are my top 10 best films of the year. You will have noticed that I didn't include such things as Oppenheimer. I did not see Oppenheimer this year. I'm not entirely sure if I'm even interested in watching it, other than the fact that Christopher Nolan did it. If anybody else did that movie, I would just flat out say no to watching it. There's also a handful of other films that I had planned to watch this year, but just never really got around to. But as it is, that is my top 10 list of the year. In the comments, make sure that you guys include your top 10 list. Do you agree with anything that I said? Do you disagree with everything? Let me know, and as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next video, and until then, peace out!